to all of you. First of all, let me thank the organizer for giving this opportunity to share the development in the area of additive manufacturing using the welding-based processes. I have gone through this particular program schedule. I found that probably additive manufacturing, you have more than 3 talks in the schedule which has been there. And this is one of the most important currently growing area in the sector of manufacturing domain. So I would be discussing some of the welding-based processes which has been started utilizing for additive manufacturing. And the focus of the talk would be for solid-state processes as well as for fusion-based processes as well. Now, for the benefit of the participants here, I would like to mention that during the session, if you have any question, you please interrupt me in between, and or you can keep your questions ready. At the end also, I'll try my level best to answer your questions. So let me begin the session. So I would like to give you the perspective, that the perspective is that, when we teach students about the metal joining course, we normally talked about the various metal joining processes. And sometimes we don't cover some of the elements which are mentioned in this particular slide. Say, for example, the welding processes, same setup, same system can be used even for cladding, hard facing, and spraying also. Welding processes are also been reported for repair and maintenance also. And the fourth one, which is the today's talk is additive manufacturing and 3D printing. So say, for example, if you have, say, for example, gas metal arc welding system. Now, gas metal arc welding system can be used for welding. That's a primary function for metal joining. Gas metal arc welding, you change your filler, right? Then that filler can be used even for cladding and hard facing also. GMW process also been reported for repair and maintenance also. And today we would be understanding how GMW process, which has been used for additive manufacturing also. So what I wanted to give you the perspective that we should not look at now welding processes just for the one particular aspect, which is metal joining. So there are other 2 elements which has been there. They are already been there in the practice. But the 4th element, which is additive manufacturing, which has been recently reported for additive manufacturing application. So there is a term called WAM, which is known as wire arc additive manufacturing. There is another term which is, say, CMT, which is cold metal transfer, friction stir additive manufacturing, ultrasonic additive manufacturing. So we would be discussing those, that how those welding processes or the welding setup is being utilized for additive manufacturing. I think your last session, which was there yesterday, that was also on additive manufacturing. So you know what is 3D printing and all those things. So quickly, I would like to cover that part. So now, in this particular module, I would be handling additive manufacturing processes based on the welding. Welding is a base, right? So there are 2 major categories you have, and one is the fusion welding, another one is the solid state welding. So when you talk about fusion and solid state welding, there are fundamental differences they have. What are those fundamental differences? Fusion means what? There is a melting which is there, and melting and solidification phenomena, which is part of the process. Because in arc welding there is an arc, and because of arc there is a melting of the filler metal, melting of the base metal. So there is an inherent metallurgical phenomena which is there, which is for melting and solidification. Now, when you look on other side, solid state welding processes, the temperature which has been generated during the solid state welding processes, which are well below the melting point of that metal. If it is aluminum, then aluminum melting point. If you look at the pure aluminum, which is 660, then so process, the temperature which has been generated during process, which is well below the melting point of that metal. While in fusion melting, you need to melt the metal. So that is what, so those problems which has been referred, you see here, there are certain problems like porosity, oxidation, micro cracking, hot cracking, micro segregations. These are the inherent problems which you have because there is a melting and solidification. When the molten metal is there, the molten metal has a tendency to absorb the atmospheric gases. If the shielding is not proper, you may end up with the porosity. Even if the shielding is not proper, molten metal get oxidized, right? And there are certain metallic material, they are very much prone to the hot cracking also. So these defects are there. in the fusion welded joints, because there is a melting phenomena. But you are not melting the metal in the solid state welding processes. So those problems which have been reported in the fusion welding, those problems can be handled easily. Even with those problems can be taken care very easily with the solid state welding processes. And the third and the most important difference, now today the industry is looking for dissimilar metal joint. Now, dissimilar combinations means what? Say, for example, you want to join aluminum copper, you want to join copper SS, right? So these are some of the systems which has been highlighted here. Or sometimes nowadays, for automobile application, the aluminum to steel is the one which is common system which has been there in automobile system, while aluminum copper is the one which has been used even in the electrical industries. So now in automobile, they have started replacing aluminum even with the magnesium. Magnesium is further lighter. Now the researchers are trying to develop a welded joint between magnesium and steel for automobile application to reduce the weight of the vehicle and to improve the fuel efficiency and to reduce the CO2 emission for a better environment. So, that is a challenge with the fusion welding process, because you need to take care of their metallurgical property including their mechanical property, thermal properties, right? But in solid state welding, those dissimilar combinations can be easily joined because we are not melting the metal, right? So that is how it is different. And the fourth and the last important difference between these processes, when you say fusion welding means what? You are melting the metal. So the mixing between the filler and the mixing between the metallic material or a base metal what you have is at the atomic scale, right? That is bound to happen. And in material science, there was a term interstitial solid solution, substitutional solid solution. So the mixing which happens, that is at the atomic scale, right, in the fusion welding. While in the solid state welding processes, specifically in the friction stir welding, it is mechanical alloying. There is no true solid solution which is forming in the bulk scale. So this is what is these are the four fundamental differences which will help you to understand the subsequent welding processes. So when you say fusion welding, you can name those fusion welding processes, which is say your arc welding processes, right? Your resistance welding processes, beam welding processes, gas welding processes. All these processes, comes under the category of fusion welding because there is a melting. And under the solid state category, you have friction welding, friction stir welding, ultrasonic welding, explosive welding, right? So there are many solid state welding processes you have. So we would be discussing those. That we won't be discussing all the solid state welding processes and all the fusion welding processes, but we would be discussing only those processes which has a potential for the additive manufacturing, right? So now I think all of you are very much familiar with this concept, which is called 3D printing, which is nothing but the layer by layer deposition. So why I'm showing you this clip just to give an idea, because this is a very common setup you have even in the welding automation based welding processes, wherein you have a torch which has been moving on a special purpose SPM XYZ, or sometimes it is CNC control also, right? So this particular head, you can just try to visualize that this is a welding head, and if it is programmed as per your product what you want to manufacture, it can be the product can be created with the help of welding head as well, right? And here you can have electrode which is a consumable in nature. So this is what the concept of 3D printing, which has been converted for a VAM concept, which is wire arc additive manufacturing. So let us discuss detailed aspects of those fusion-based additive manufacturing processes, and then we would be discussing solid-state additive manufacturing, solid-state welding processes, and solid-state additive manufacturing processes. So you see here, with the help of TIG welding process, with the help of MIG welding process, you can do this kind of layer by layer deposition, and you see such a beautiful component which has been created in using welding-based processes. So before I jump to those things, I would like to mention here that why the most closest field to the additive manufacturing, if you look with the recent literature which has been referred, I have put the reference also here. So that particular literature mentioned that the welding is a field which is directly linked with the additive manufacturing. So why it is linked with the additive manufacturing? So there is a justification which has been given here, because when we go for a welding, for welding, the primary requirement is the heat. Now the heat can be generated with the various kind of the heat source you have. Now your heat source can be of arc type, it can be of plasma, it can be of laser, it can be of electron beam. So there are various kinds of the sources you have. Now, these heat source we have been using for locally milled. Welding is also termed as a localized casting. I'm sure you understand this thing, that why the welding is being termed as a localized casting. We all know casting, right? Casting is to create a component through, you pour the molten metal into the mold cavity. So, but here, your melting and solidification phenomena happens only at the groove area, right? The edges. So that's the reason the welding is being termed as a localized casting. So, there is a local melting which happens in the arc welding processes, or whether you take laser welding or a plasma process or electron beam welding processes. So these are the common heat source which we have in the welding to locally melt and fuse the powder. Or sometimes even a powder has been replaced with the consumable, a wire consumable, right? Because in welding you have the electrode which is in the form of a wire, and which can be used to convert into the 3D part without necessary use of die and the mold. So how the welding and additive manufacturing processes are linked, which has been explained in this particular slide, that there are many physical processes like AM variants are nearly identical to those in the welding. So additive manufacturing for metallic material and the welding, joining the metallic material through the welding processes, there is a good amount of the similarity between these two operations. And there are many physical phenomena which happens in the arc welding. They are also very much close with the additive manufacturing operations. So what they want to convey through this slide is that, the welding processes by now, they are more than 100 years old. And so whatever the experience which has been developed in the arc welding processes or even in the laser welding processes, that experience or metallurgical experience or welding process development experience can be integrated into the rapidly expanding field of metal additive manufacturing. So if you want to understand more about that, what is the similarity and how they are linked, welding processes are linked with the additive manufacturing. So there is an article by Professor Roy, and that was published in Progress in Material Science, which was 2018 article. So now this is your conventional classification, what you have, which has been there in the additive manufacturing using, AS team has classified. There are various processes you have. We would be discussing the welding based processes. This is your conventional classification, what you have. And in this processes, the laser based source is the one which has been widely used for additive manufacturing. You see that the laser, the laser source which has been used for welding also, laser is a source for use for machining, laser is used for surfacing, right? So here the laser source which has been reported for the additive manufacturing. And if you see this, there are three variants you have with the laser based additive manufacturing. One which is called laser sintering, another one which is called laser melting, and the third one which is called laser metal deposition. So when you say laser sintering means what? It is, there is a powder bed is available and the laser scans the entire area. While here in laser melting, the powder bed is there and the powder is going to melt. While here in this case, there is a coaxial feeding of the powder along with the laser. So this is how there is a fundamental difference between these three processes. Here there is a partial melting of the powder, while here there is a complete melting of the powder. So this is how they are different. So here there is a small clip which has been presented for a better understanding. Now you see there are two clips you have. One wherein you see there is a coaxial feeding of the powder, right? And you see the development, while here there is a powder bed which has been there and the laser scans the entire area. Once it has been sintered or it has been milled, you put another layer of the powder here, while here there is a continuous feeding of the powder along with the coaxial situation. Now here you have put another layer of the powder, then again the laser scans, right? Either it melts or either it's sintered. So here your component is ready, right, after multiple layer. But you can see here, there is a kind of the powder which has been left out at the end of the process. But here, there is no sort of any wastage in the process. So why I'm showing you this clip, to give you an idea that here, there is an example to utilize the laser source for various kind of the laser-based additive manufacturing. Here there is a sintering operation. Here there is an coaxial feeding of the powder, and you have noticed the differences between both the operation. So we should not look at the laser welding, just the laser is a source which has the multiple application. The welding, cutting, machining, all those things are very common, which has been discussed, right? But this laser source for the additive manufacturing, this is the one source which has been extensively utilized for additive manufacturing. So this is what the difference, and this is the end of the slide. Now there is another heat source, which is, we are all familiar with the TIG welding operation. So I'm trying to give you the concept that how the TIG welding, right? You see that TIG welding is a tungsten inert gas. So you have a non-consumable tungsten electrode, and then there is a filler wire. So that filler wire is either cold condition or hot condition. So there is a, now you see here in this particular video, there is a TIG welding operation is going on, and the external, there is a wire which has been fed. And once you are done with the layer, right, there is an intermediate online machining tool or real-time machining. See, you see, intermediate, there is a machining tool which is coming to ensure the proper finish, right? Then you again put the additional layer. So this is called TIG welding process, but TIG welding is being used for additive manufacturing. So there is a term which has been worked out, which is called wire arc additive manufacturing. Wire arc additive manufacturing means wire is nothing but the electrode which is being used, and that is a consumable in nature. And you know, in TIG welding, there is a benefit what you have is that wire electrode which you are feeding, right? Tungsten is a non-consumable, but the external electrode or a filler metal which you are feeding, right? Either it can be fed in the hot condition, either it can be fed in the cold condition. So you can control the heat input in the TIG welding, and the quality of the weld or the quality of the deposits which has been produced with the TIG welding is always excellent, because you have the inert gas in the process. So you see that this is an external wire. So this is how the process has been executed. And there is a good amount of research which is going on in the Cranfield University with the wire arc additive manufacturing.
Process CMT.
Now here, there is another variant which has been developed, which is called, this is again a VAM process, but the name is CMT, cold metal transfer. Why it has been termed as a cold metal transfer? You look at this clip, you will get an idea. This particular process is nothing but it's a variant. It is the variant of your GMAW process. We are familiar with the gas metal arc welding process, right? So in the gas metal arc welding process, you have three different modes. You have short circuit transfer, right? So this transfer is the modified one of short circuit. You see that you have the electrode which is going forward and reverse through the mechanical attachment you have at the back, right? So electrode what you have, which is going forward and reverse, and with that you are controlling the heat input. If you are constantly pushing your electrode forward, then you have a lot of heat input. But through this mechanism, right, you are controlling the heat. So CMT is a process. Actually, it was invented for the dissimilar metal joining, right? But there are reports which mention that application of cold metal transfer. This CMT is nothing but it's a GMAW process only, through which you can make the deposits for your additive manufacturing application. So let me, yeah. So there is a mechanical way to make this particular electrode forward and backward. You see here, right? So this also comes under the category of VAM, wire arc additive manufacturing. So mechanically, you are trying to detach the droplet. You see there is a droplet which is forming, right? So this droplet, you know, you move forward, droplet forms, right? And it makes the contact. You take it electrode back, and it gets detached. So you do the frequency of this process is very, very high, and the overall temperature which would be generated during the process is minimum, so that the residual stresses, distortion, all those things can be controlled very easily. And again, here you have the electrode which is consumable in nature. Now you see, this is something which has been printed with the help of CMT process, right? So this kind of objects can be done. For initial trial, it was done. So at our university also, we have the this wire arc additive manufacturing setup, which is nothing but our our GMAW only, gas metal arc welding system. And this gas metal arc welding system, you see there is an electrode. That electrode is being fed continuously, right? So it is a GMAW process. Here there is a data monitoring system. There is a system which controls the entire welding parameters, X, Y, Z movement. So this is our conventional GMAW setup. But now we have started utilizing this setup for WAM application, which is wire arc additive manufacturing. So you see, with that, we could able to deposit some layers. Like we did some trials, and 10 layers about were deposited using the Inconel alloy. And this is what is the, and we didn't did any intermediate cleaning or anything, right? We straight away deposits 6 layers together, 10 layers together without holding intermediate. It's a continuous deposition. And you see the layer by layer deposition which was carried out. So this is again a WAM, wire arc additive manufacturing. Whether you say a GMAW process, or whether you say CMT process, or whether you say TIG welding process, all this comes under the category of wire arc additive manufacturing. So with this particular recent development, we could in a position to deposit around 25 layers together. You see that the total thickness which was achieved in 25 layers, which was close to 50 millimeter plus, close to 55 in fact. And you see that once we are doing continuous deposition, the deposits become red hot also, right? Because we didn't clean in between also, neither we hold in between also. It was like continuous deposition. So program was set for number of layers, whether it is 10 layer or 6 layers or 20 layers or 25 layers. So this is what is the development that we have. Now moving further into the additive manufacturing processes. Now, after giving you some glimpse of fusion-based additive manufacturing processes, now before I move, I would like to check with the audience. Do you have any question on the previous part of the presentation? Fine. So let's move further. So the second part of this presentation is a solid state welding. And we would be discussing about additive manufacturing, which are solid state in nature. So you see here, there is one photograph which has been pasted, and you see here number of layers which has been deposited in the.
Excuse me, sir. Dr. Harshit sir, shall I have one query regarding that one?
Yeah, you can ask.
Yeah. Sir, actually regarding that fusion welding process, no, you told about that it is limitation is a combination of 2 or more metals, right?
Right.
Sir, for example, when you are people are working nowadays related to microwave welding processes, or we can say in other way the microwave joining processes. So that is also one kind of a fusion welding, and in that microwave welding process, you can also able to join the 2 dissimilar materials. So whether that can be limit the fusion welding process?
See, fusion welding process, say for example, if you want to change the material in between, say in WAM process specifically, this is a GMAW setup. You have a one type of electrode which has been continuously feeding, and you are getting only one components which has been created is of same material only. But if you want to go with the multi-material, right, you need to either change the spool, and you need to check whether they are compatible with each other or not, or you need to switch over to the solid state welding processes where even if the materials are highly dissimilar, in a solid state way you can deposit also. So your question is related with the
Sir, my question is, that means we have shown one slide related to that fusion welding and solid state welding, right? So yes, in case of fusion welding, that means one point is there that it limits the combination of 2 or more materials or 2 or more metals. But when we will concentrate on the micro welding process, that is also though called it is a fusion welding process, that is also useful to join 2 or more different materials also, as per the literature, whatever it has been focused till now. So how far we can say that it limits the combination of 2 or more metals in case of fusion welding?
Yeah, so in fusion welding process, there is a term called interlayer. Sometimes, these 2 highly dissimilar combinations, if you want to join highly dissimilar combinations with the fusion welding processes, So if you can put an interlayer between these two, right? And that interlayer, which is, it is like, which has the solubility, good solubility in both the metals. So that way you can work out that which interlayer material can be applied before you really apply to some different material. So this is one of the option.
Okay, that means we can use the interfacial material that can be reached to the melting point, then that is used to join the two edges of the parent metal pieces, which is reaching to the solidus point, right?
Okay. Say for example, you want to put aluminum and copper, right? Now, aluminum and copper, they are highly dissimilar. But between aluminum and copper, if you put an interlayer material, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that interlayer is, which has a good solubility in aluminum also, which has a good solubility even in the copper also. So those
Yes.
kind of materials can be selected wherever there is a problem with the compatibility with the dissimilar combinations.
Yes. Okay.
And
That means
micro-
the edges of the parent metal pieces, they are reaching to the melting range, not completely melting point.
in solid state welding processes, the maximum temperature that would be generated would be 80 to 90% of the melting point of that metal.
Oh, yeah, that means solidus temperature. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
So thank you. Thank you for your question. So let's move to the.
Sir, I'll suggest that you take questions at the end so that
Okay.
when this is uploaded by Atal Academy, the listeners
Okay.
will not have any break in their.
Okay. Got it.
That's a suggestion from my side, sir.
Sure. I missed that aspect. That's perfectly all right. So solid state welding processes, there is another important part of this presentation is a solid state welding based additive manufacturing. So here there is a clip, which is one of the, because see, when I mentioned the additive manufacturing using solid state concept, so there are many solid state welding processes you have, but we would be discussing only those solid state welding processes which has a potential for the additive manufacturing. So this is one very common process which is called friction welding. And you see that in friction welding, there is one component which is rotating other aspects. You bring them in contact with each other. So you get a lot of friction heat. And because of that friction heat, the material becomes soft. You apply certain extra force. And then you see there is a sort of upset or a ring forms on its periphery, which indicates that the entire cross section has joined uniformly. So you see that this is an actual photograph wherein you bring the two components in contact with each other. You need to ensure that one of the components should be cylindrical in shape in this particular process. That is the requirement. And you see that the interface become red hot, and then you ensure the sufficient temperature at the interface. You apply some extra force, and you will get the joint like this, right? So this is a friction welding process, and there are many applications it has, even in the industry, like submersible pump also, some electrical applications also, a lot of applications you have. The friction welding of pipe and friction welding of solid cross section, there is a large difference, because when you say solid cross sections, whatever the ring which is forming, that ring forms only at the exterior. But when you have a pipe, right, so whatever the ring which is forming at the external, right, a similar kind of the ring you have even internal also, right? So, and the cross sectional area available to you to generate the friction heat is also limited because it's a pipe configuration, right? So that's how when you go with the pipe configuration, these are the certain challenges for friction welding. And here there is a clip to give you an idea about, there are two types of friction welding you have. One which is a rotary friction welding, which you can see here in the video, and another one which is your linear friction welding. You see there is a linear motion, here there is a rotary motion. So both of them are the friction welding processes you have, and they have been reported for multiple applications. So you see, earlier both the components were circular, now only one is rotating, which is, now that was different. So now this is in a different position altogether. And here also you see, so material between the interface, it comes neither solid, neither liquid. It is like viscoplastic situation, right? And you can, so this is called linear friction welding. So there are reports which indicates that whether it is a linear friction welding or a regular friction welding, rotary friction welding, both of them can be used for additive manufacturing. So here there is a small clip which talks about the linear friction welding. And you see that there are two components which has been there, and now they are going to join. So you saw the linear friction welding in the earlier clip. So this will help you to understand that how the linear friction additive manufacturing can be done. So you can deposit, so there is a one component which is directly deposited or directly fixed onto the other component. Now you see here, and so if you wish to add additional, you can add, and this is like linear friction welding for additive manufacturing. So friction welding also has a very good potential for additive manufacturing. Now, there is another process which is friction stir welding, which is also been reported for many joining of similar combinations, similar materials, aluminum materials, because there are certain issues it has. So let me explain you. You see here that friction stir welding, there is a term stir, which is different, right? We talked about friction welding in the previous part. So there is a special tool you have. You see here, there is a special tool is required, and that tool is responsible for stirring and mixing at the interface. Now, tool has two special features. One is the pin, which you can see here. That pin has the threads also. There are different shapes of the pins are possible, right? And then there is a shoulder also. So one has to design a tool which is for your given material, right? Given thickness. If you're working with the aluminum and what thickness you have, whether you're working with the copper, so copper material, copper thickness, all those things are there you need to consider before you make a tool design. And you see here, there is a natural way that the metal and the wood, they have joined. So this is what is the natural bonding between the metal and the wood. So similar, so why I have put this photograph here is to give you an idea that the friction stir welding also has that potential to even join plastic and metal also, right? Those combinations are also possible with the friction stir welding. So here there is a, just to give you the glimpse of the process. So here there is a photograph which talks about friction stir welding. And here you see, you have a special tool, and that tool has a pin and the shoulder. So initially that the pin penetrates. So pin, the length of the pin, it depends on what thickness of the material you have. Normally the length of the pin is lower than the plate thickness. It is just 0.1 or 0.2 millimeter less than the plate thickness. If my plate is 6 millimeter, my pin length has to be 5.8, 5.9, right? If it is too less, you will get lack of root fusion. If it is beyond the plate thickness, it may come out from the other side, and you get the pin failure also. And there is another important nomenclature here is the advancing side and the retreating side. The advancing side means what? You see the welding direction, right? And you see the tool rotation. So the welding direction and the tool rotation, both the tangent are coinciding on this side. That is called your advancing side, and the opposite side is called retreating side. So this is what is the difference. Otherwise, this is called pin, this is called shoulder, right? And to grip the tool in the FSW machine, right, you have a small step here, 2 millimeters, so that the tool doesn't go back while applying the downward force. So these are the sub steps you have in the process. You see, there is a FSW tool you have, right, which initially rotate. You start the tool at certain RPM, then it moves towards so there is a plunging stage. Once it has been plunged, the shoulder makes the contact with the top surface, because shoulder diameter is more than the pin diameter. So shoulder diameter is normally 3 times the pin diameter. And once the shoulder makes the contact with the top surface, you will get a lot of friction heat. And then you will get the joint in the solid state condition. So this is how the friction stir welding process takes place. And as far as this process is concerned, as I mentioned, the tool is the heart of the entire process. Without tool, and tool material also vary with the material to material, because tool is non-consumable. Whatever the tool material is suitable for aluminum, not suitable for that same material is not suitable for copper, right? And what material you take for copper is not suitable for steel, stainless steel also. So as you move to the high temperature material, the friction stir welding become more and more challenging. Friction stir welding of soft material is easy, say aluminum, magnesium, up to copper. With the help of your vertical milling machine, you can do that. But then as you move to the other high temperature materials, specifically the ferrous materials, which is more challenging because their melting points are very high, their strength is also very high, right? And it takes a lot of time before its flow strength decreases, because the entire concept of friction stir welding depends on the flow strength of the material. So here there is a friction, because in friction stir welding, the another primary requirement is the friction. You need to hold the plates more carefully, right? Otherwise, what will happen during the process? By the time your pin inserts, right, your tool plates get apart, right? So avoid that, you require a very strong friction, and normally friction along with the backing is also required. You see, there is a backing you have, so which is under the support of aluminum plate. So that's normally the backing material is been preferred is stainless steel, because stainless steel gives you, it has a poor thermal conductivity. So whatever the friction heat you are generating, that heat will retain. So the frictioning play a very important role, frictioning with the backing. And then in friction stir welding, you have some of the important variable. What RPM the tool is rotating, what is the welding speed, what is the tilt angle, the downward force, the pin offset. So these are the important parameters you have in friction stir welding. And these parameters are equally important when you are going with the friction stir additive manufacturing also. So let me take you to the family of the friction. So now we have understood friction stir welding process. And now you see, this is the complete family of friction stir welding technology. And you see here that this is the mother of all the process, which is friction stir welding, or you can say the conventional FSW. And from this conventional FSW, there are other welding processes which has been derived, right? And there is a one part which is called processing also, friction stir processing, wherein you are not really joining the two metallic material, neither similar, neither dissimilar, but you are using the FSW tool for processing of the material, for the microstructure refinement of the material, right? So here, friction stir welding technology, wherein with the help of the tool, you do joining, then it comes under the category of welding. And if you are using that tool for microstructure refinement, then it is called processing. So processing is being used for even composite material, surface composite, bulk composite, all those things can be possible with the tool. So here, there is a one variant which you can see, which has been referred as friction stir additive, right? So friction stir additive manufacturing, which is also being possible with the help of friction stir welding tool. So let's understand that part. So now you have understood the friction stir welding. So you can see here that there are layer by layer, two materials or a different kind of the material. The color indicates that, you know, you have selected different kind of the materials, right? Layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, right? You have selected different kind of the material, and this material initially you are joining layer 1 and layer 2, and you see that it is completely in the lap configuration, overlap, right? It is not butt configuration. What you have observed in the previous part, it was a butt configuration like this clip, right? But here it is completely lap. So initially you do layer 1 and layer 2, and then the tool is penetrating completely to the layer 2 and partially to the layer 1, right? So once you are done with layer 1 and layer 2, you put another layer, which is layer 3. So tool will penetrate through layer 3 to layer 2, and you see the macro, and then you put another layer, then that's how it is going on. So you are adding the material layer, but neither the material is in the powder form, neither the material is in the form of wire. It is the material which is in the form of plate, right? You are putting the aluminum plate or whatever the material you have in the form of the complete in the solid form, and then you are joining like this. So this is called friction stir additive manufacturing. And there are certain reports which talks about that you can have various kind of the material for various kind of the applications, like including alternate gradient structure, fully gradient structure, right? Sandwich structures also, right? All kind of different materials for different applications are possible with the help of, because it's the solid state welding process. So material compatibility in each other, which is very important in the fusion welding, can be handled easily with the solid state welding processes. So here there is a small clip to give you an idea about the friction stir additive manufacturing. Kindly look at this clip. This will help you to understand the process at how they are doing friction stir additive manufacturing. It is done at very high speed. So you see that there are few aluminum plates, assuming that the previous layers are already been stacked, already been welded, right? So they are now working on the upper layer only. You see, there is a tool, there is a head. Now they have done with the one part. Now they are, that's a side, other side of the same configuration, right? So this is how, now after this friction stir additive manufacturing, now this, whatever the tool which has been mounted here, that is FSW tool. So once they remove this FSW tool, you see, you can see the tilt head is also tilted to a certain degree, right? And it has been tilted towards the trailing edge, not on the leading edge. Once it has been done, he removes this FSW tool, what you have, and you know, there were some flashes were formed. So those flashes has to be removed with the help of, you put another cutting tool there, right? So now there is a cutting tool here. So that cutting tool will help you to remove the flashes, right? And those flashes will be removed with the help of same machine, only the tool has been replaced, FSW tool replaced with the cutting milling cutter. And then they take the entire stack, right? Now you see the component which is of 5 each, which has been partially machined to get the stimulated component. So this is how the friction stir additive manufacturing has been worked out. So friction welding, friction stir welding. Now there is a third process which is called friction surfacing. So you see here, there is a so if you look at the classification chart, you see here there is a friction surfacing is also been written here. You see there is a friction surfacing which is also being used for additive manufacturing. This is friction stir additive manufacturing, right? So friction surfacing, let me show you first of all the process, then it's become easy for you to understand. Now you see here, there is a, like FSW, there is a tool, but here the tool is in the form of consumable. And this is in the form of rod, right? So this rod get consumed during the process. So initially it is like a pencil tip, right? And then you get the viscoplastic situation. Material is neither solid, neither liquid. And then you apply the feed, you will get a solid state layer here. And this is how, and so this is called friction surfacing. So what you are doing, it is also known as solid state cladding. It is also known as solid state cladding. So you see all the steps which are involved here. You see initially there is a rod which you bring in the contact, and then you see here there is a initial contact. You maintain that situation under the force, then the material get plasticized, right? And then you apply the feed, so you get the layer. So the length of the rod or a consumable, right, which is getting consumed during the process, it is decreases, right? And then you need to take another rod for the process. So you can deposit even aluminum on steel or steel on aluminum. Any kind of combinations can be deposited. So here, this is an actual setup, which you can see there is a rod, and this rod is, you see, right, all these things, and you see the diameter of the rod, right? Because you know it has certain length. We can't take too long rod. Otherwise, what will happen? There is a cantilever sort of situation. We'll get a lot of vibration, or sometimes even if the diameter is less, then the rod may get bent also. So it is advisable that you take a certain optimized length of the rod and optimized diameter also. Otherwise, the cantilever situation may happen, and you will get a lot of vibration also. And you see that during the process, deposit, say for example, you see the deposit which was made of 22 millimeter, right? And if you cut the cross section, the width or the bonding at the interface would be less than this width. So this 22 millimeter, what you are observing, which is called bead width. So here this is a bead, and the width is called bead width. And when you cut the cross section, right? When you cut the cross section, the bonding at the interface would be less than 22 millimeter. so which is called bond width. So there is a term called bead width and bond width. And you see here, there is this area at the edges, there is always lack of bond, right? Why there is a lack of bond? Because you see that you have a rod and the rod has certain diameter. So you have a very good uniform pressure, right, under the rod area. But you don't have pressure in this area where the flash is there, right? So this particular area gives you lack of bonding. So this lack of bonding has to be handled carefully when you are going with the cladding operation or additive manufacturing operation. So process is very simple as you saw in the video. So first you have a consumable rod which rotates to desirable speed, and then you brought in the contact with the substrate under the axial force, right? The substrate that time is stationary. And after initial rubbing, you will get a plasticized layer under the consumable rod, right? And then you allow the substrate to traverse across the consumable and leaving a layer of deposited. And the microstructure of this deposited is forged microstructure. The forged microstructure is considered to be the very fine microstructure, right? With the zero dilution. Dilution is nothing but the mixing between the parent metal and the deposited layer. Here it is zero dilution, which is, that means it is not mixing with the, so that the layer is not getting affected with the substrate participation. And there is a very strong bond with the substrate. Now, what I wanted to tell you in friction surfacing, that friction surfacing, the way in friction stir welding, I mentioned about the diameter of the rod, length of the rod, right? These things play a very important role. And as I mentioned, there is a lack of bond which associate, right? See, you see that, let me show you the picture. Now you see here, the width what you are getting is 22 millimeter. But if you measure from here to here, maybe 22 millimeter, but you see at the interface, right? It is less than 22 millimeter. So what you have at the interface is called bond width, right? And what you have, physically what you are observing on the surface, which is called bead width. So this is what, so you know, there is always lack of bond here. You see there is a lack of bond. From the top you may be feeling there is a good bonding, but you see there is no bonding here, there is no bonding here, right? Which is very visible in the other picture also. So this is what one has to understand, bead width and the bond width. And bead width and bond width would be, depends on what parameters you have, right? And another important thing is that what would be the thickness of the layer which you are depositing. You know, if you take aluminum rod, right, which is very soft material, melting point is also very less. So in one go, you would be in a position to deposit 5 to 6 millimeter, right? Because it's aluminum, magnesium, soft material. But as you move to the ferrous side, steel and stainless steel, the maximum thickness which you can achieve in one pass would be 3 millimeter, almost half of the aluminum. But if you jump to the other high temperature materials like nickel based alloy or stellite based alloy, you know, in one go you will get maximum 0.1 to 0.5 to 1 millimeter. So this is what is the thickness of the deposit layer, right? Which would be depends on what material you have. Whether my rod is of aluminum, whether it is of carbon steel, whether it is of nickel based alloy, right? Because their melting points are different, their strengths are different. So in what maximum thickness which you can achieve in one go, right? Then subsequently you can add layer by layer, right? So that is friction surfacing. So in friction surfacing, the downward force, right, play a very important role. How much force you are applying. You see, this is your deposit, right? And you see there is no consolidation between the substrate and the deposit layer. It's complete lack of bond. But as your downward force increases, right, you can see there is a small initiation of the consolidation at the interface. With the further improve, you see there is a good bonding at around 4 kilonewton, right? Even 5 kilonewton is also better. So 4 to 5 kilonewton is better. Beyond 5 kilonewton, you see there is a concaveness, right? The material flowing other sides, right? And you can see there is a, in all the cases, there is a lack of bond at the edges, right? Because you get a very good uniform pressure under the rod, but whatever the area where you have a flash, so under the flash, there is no downward force, and which gives you a lack of bond at the interfaces or edges. So similarly, so this was the effect of axial force. And you know, the load which vary with the material to material, whether this 6 kilonewton may be good for aluminum, but may not be good for steel or nickel based alloy, right? So this load requirement may vary with material to material. Another important parameter is the travel speed. You know, you are giving substrate. Substrate is going to, you see here in the clip, your substrate, once you get the, right, your substrate is moving, right? So what is the speed of the substrate? That is also very important. And that is termed as your travel speed. And as your travel speed increases, you know, normally in welding, we say welding speed, the rate at which or velocity at which the welding head is moving. So that is your welding speed. So as your welding speed increases, what will happen? The coating thickness decreases, right? Or the heat input also decreases. So coating thickness also decreases, right? So here there is an important understanding. So as your welding speed increases, you see that as your welding speed increases, your interfacial bonding is also better, right? Because you are reducing the heat input. As you increase the welding speed, your heat input decreases, your interfacial bonding strength improves. And since the interfacial bonding strength improves with increasing the welding speed, right? At higher welding speed, you see the failure is in coating, right? But the failure at the interface. Now, you know very well that the failure at the interface is not advisable, right? Failure at the interface is not advisable. Failure in the coated is advisable, right? So you see that as your welding speed increases, right, your heat input decreases, your bonding strength improves, and since your higher speed, the bond strength is higher, failure in the coating, right? It is not failing at the interface. You know, I'm sure in the welded joint, there is a common understanding that the failure should not happen from the weld joint, right? Failure should happen outside the weld joint, right? Ideally, it should fail from the parent metal. If the weld joint fails from the parent metal, it indicates that the joint strength has the strength of the welded joint is equal or higher than the strength of the parent metal. So from a design perspective, the strength of the weld joint should be higher than the strength of the parent metal or equal. So here you can understand there is another important parameter in the friction surfacing is the RPM. You see that your RPM also play a very important role, and higher is the RPM, you see that your finish improves. You see 600 gives you very rough finish, 2400 gives you excellent finish, right? And if you look at those finish, right? Now you may have a question, the finish improves, but the bead width decreases. You see that the bead width, 600 gives you the maximum bead width, then further reduces, right? So what is the reason for this particular aspect? The reason for this, you know, because your consumable rod is rotating at very high RPM. Since it is rotating at very high RPM, right, your centrifugal force is also very high. So the material transfer efficiency from a consumable rod to the substrate, that is decreases because of the higher centrifugal force. And that's the reason your bead width decreases with increasing the RPM. So there are certain reports which indicate that the friction surfacing is nothing but to replace the short length surfacing application, or mainly the repair and maintenance part, right? So even agriculture tools repair, or it can be of turbine blade repair also, right? So you can see there are various components which has been shown. It is not to replace the existing process, because you know you have a limited length of the rod, and once it gets consumed, you need to take another rod, right? So it is mainly for repair and maintenance application. But the recent reports indicates that this friction surfacing is also reported for additive manufacturing. Why? Because now you know the process, right? Now you see what you have understood in the process was friction surfacing. And in friction surfacing, you know, you do layer by layer deposition. Now you have done one layer, but over same layer, you add subsequent layers of same material or dissimilar material. So this is called friction surfacing for additive manufacturing. And what you are doing, you have a one track. Over the track, you are adding the layers. And then in another variant, wherein you know you go side by side, you create multiple tracks, and all tracks are being deposited with additional layer. So multi-track, multi-material. So hope you have understood that how friction surfacing, right? It is a rod, and you know on the same you are keep on adding the subsequent layers. So it is single track, multi layers. It may be of same material and dissimilar material. While here you create a multiple track side by side, and over each track you add additional layers. So it's a multi-track, multi-material. So this is what you can see here at 1, 2, 3, and this is what is the layer, and this is what is the hardness distribution, which you can see. Layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. You have a highest hardness in the layer 3, comparatively higher, is just because the heat of the layer 3 is affecting the heat of the layer 2, and the heat of the layer 2 is getting affected to the heat of layer 1. So precipitates what you have, they get dissolved, and because of that, the hardness in the layer 1 is less, and then subsequently it is higher. In layer 3, there is no layer 4. So that's the reason it is highest, because they are precipitation hardenable aluminum alloy. So your precipitate get dissolves because of an additional heat. So in our laboratory also, we could be in a position to deposit aluminum on steel with single layer, double layer, triple layer also during the process. And these are the few photographs to give you an idea about the single layer, double layer, and triple layer. Right. So there is another solid state welding process which is called ultrasonic additive manufacturing, and I'm sure that you are familiar with the ultrasonic welding. The ultrasonic welding is a process, the name itself indicates. So you have an electrical energy, and that electrical energy is converted into the mechanical vibration, and that mechanical vibrations can be used for welding. And there are reports indicates that now that mechanical vibrations can be used even for additive manufacturing also. So this is what, about the ultrasonic welding. I'm sure that ultrasonic welding has this potential for, so you have a sonotrode, you have a foil or a strip which has been there, and you are keep on adding the subsequent layers of metallic strip, and you can create a 3D object out of that, right? So in ultrasonic welding, there are a few setups you have. Ultrasonic spot welding you have, ultrasonic torsion welding you have, ultrasonic seam welding you have. So there is an ultrasonic seam welding, right, where the horn is in the form of wheel, which has been extensively used for ultrasonic additive manufacturing. To start with, you can use even ultrasonic spot welding also for additive manufacturing application. So here, there are important parameters you have in ultrasonic welding. Those parameters which are important in ultrasonic welding, these parameters are equally important even in the additive manufacturing system also. The frequency, vibration amplitude, the power capabilities, all those things play a very important role. So here, I would like to show you, this is what is the setup which has been there. Let me show you.
Ultrasonic welding, or the ultrasonic additive manufacturing, is an additive manufacturing process wherein thin metal strips are welded in solid state on each other using ultrasounds. To start the fabrication, the shape is programmed into the CNC machine. The strips are juxtaposed with a certain overlap, ensuring a fully dense part. The vibrations induced by ultrasound
now see, there is a strip.
Mechanical anchoring of the
You see your
lamellae on
sonotrode.
the substrate. Thereafter,
You see?
the lamellae are stacked
These are all
layer by
strips.
layer.
3D
The
object.
type of materials can even be changed during manufacturing to impart special properties to the finished part.
You can have
The
it.
process can also weld incompatible materials because no liquid phase is formed during
You
welding.
see?
After the welding, machining is performed to obtain the final part.
So that was about ultrasonic additive manufacturing, like amplitude, force, travel speed. These parameters which are equally important in welding, they are equally important even in ultrasonic additive manufacturing, right? And these are some of the consumables which requires during the process. And these are the few applications, because this is slightly different area wherein ultrasonic which has been reported. This is again, a lot of research is going on, and these are the few components which has been reported in the literature for additive manufacturing using ultrasonic. So sensor, actuators, and some composite material, rapid prototyping, stamping dies. So this is one of the macro which has been given, the aluminum titanium interlayer. Let's see. Now I've come to an end of this presentation, just to give you some overview that I have, whatever the welding processes which I have covered. In addition to that, there is research which has been reported, which I have not mentioned here, but because of the time constraint. But just to give an idea, even plasma arc, even plasma arc welding is there. So plasma arc additive manufacturing process is also there, and plasma arc additive manufacturing with the single wire, double wire is also been reported. Then additive manufacturing using submerged arc welding is also been reported. So if you want to do some research, you can look at those processes as well. And cold spray additive manufacturing is also been reported. So these are some of the key takeaway from your perspective, because there are many faculty members who are attending this presentation. So if they would like to take away some research gap wherein some research can be done. So these are the few topics. Or overall, in general also, there is good amount of scope available in welding-based additive manufacturing processes. Just to give you the glimpse of welding research facility that we have at our university, we have the friction stir welding facility with the load cell and the variable RPM and the feed. And this was developed under the BRNS project, Board for Research in Nuclear Science. Then we have another setup which is on activated TIG welding process, because we do work actively in arc welding processes as well. So therein we have the advanced TIG welding power source with AC/DC control. There is an SPM to move the torch in XYZ direction. And there is a gas mixing device to move argon helium, because it's a TIG welding, so you require inert gases. So this is your inert gas mixture. Then, as I mentioned, we have a GMAW setup, which was from DST project. And now currently we are using this setup for WAM application, wire arc additive manufacturing. Then we have a dedicated friction stir welding machine, which is nothing but the vertical milling machine with the fixed RPM and fixed feed, and which has been used extensively for aluminum dissimilar combinations also. Then, as I mentioned, that there is a TIG welding, which can be done with hot wire and cold wire. So we have a hot wire, cold wire setup available. And this setup is being used currently for joining of copper and copper alloy. But here there is a potential to utilize this setup for wire arc additive manufacturing using TIG welding, wherein you can control the hot wire and cold wire. You see, the bigger power source is for TIG tungsten electrode, while the smaller power source is for the filler metal, which you are feeding, right? And that filler can be cold and hot also. Then, as I mentioned about ultrasonic, we have a dedicated system available for ultrasonic welding of metals and ultrasonic welding of plastics also. And there is a control here, right? So generator and the digital display. Then we have a hybrid kind of thing also, combining the two different processes. So in TIG welding, which has been combined with the friction stir welding of high temperature material is more challenging, or high conductivity material is also more challenging. So there is an additional heat can be given. And you see here, there is a clip here. So here the friction stir welding is going on, as you saw in the video, right? But now you see there is an extra heat which has been given with the TIG welding. So there are various kind of the sources can be used for TIG weld other than TIG welding. And the purpose of this extra heat, right? The purpose of this extra heat is to do the preheating, right? So that the stirring and mixing can be enhanced. And it is mainly for high conductivity material like copper and high strength material, right? So that, you know, the tool wear and the load on the tool can be reduced. So this is called kind of hybrid. The researchers have tried even oxyacetylene flame also, even the laser also as an extra heating mechanism. In terms of the testing facility, we have the wear testing facility, which is pin on disk, and this is mainly for dry condition, wet condition, pin heating, and furnace setting. So all four modes are possible. All four modes are possible, and these are some of the major specifications. And we can go up to 400 degrees centigrade as well for pin heating and the furnace setting, and the load can go up to 200 Newton as well. And then we have another facility which is called hot tensile facility, wherein you can do the super plasticity test, the tensile testing at high temperature, mainly for aluminum magnesium material. So you have an extra heating chamber for heating purpose. So just to give you the brief that my association is with the professional body called Indian Institute of Welding, and there are various, its head office is in Calcutta, and there is a branch is in Baroda. So this professional body gives you they promotes the welding science and technology. So if you are interested in joining the professional body IIW, you may please visit this website. And if you wish more information, please feel free to contact me.